They think it's emergency to get
There's a lot. Balance. Mayor, Moran, Parker, Rice, Winfrey, here. Tumanella. We also have Mr. Eustace and Mr. Brooks.
Join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes from, let the record reflect that Ms. Rice is here. And first thing is the minutes from April 17th.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. First item under old business is the update from the courthouse delivery team, White, Gilbane, and Farnsworth. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Good morning. What a great day. Great to be out on the site now when it's actually sunny out, and actually warm. So as far as for safety goes, we've had 126 days without a lost time or reportable incident, 21,000 plus hours of safe man hours, and we've had 183 personnel that went through our orientation and is scheduled to be on site. We're hoping to continue.
Absolutely.
As far as our schedule goes, we're still looking at substantial completion to remain at on 9/15. The contractors that you'll see on site this month mainly will be Martin Cement. They will be working on throughout the basement area. We'll have Zenarea. They're doing some excavation for us. Proofer, which is the waterproofer, they finished up yesterday everything that they can do. C.J. Erickson and Excel and Lejeune will be on site a little bit later. We did move the steel erection back a week, only to give the concrete guy a little bit more time to make sure that he completes his work. So as far as bid release 5 went, we did receive bids for the ceramic tile, the access flooring, and signage. We are in the process of reviewing those. I reviewed the ceramic tile today. We did have the low bidder drop out. Request to be removed. He made a fairly large error in his estimate, and so which required us to go to item number 2. And when you wonder what that value was, it was over $500,000. So I do meet with the access flooring contractor tomorrow, which is RG Construction, and then next week, Monday, I meet with the signage contractor for his, and hopefully we'll have the RTAs. I'll have them to date by the 9th, and then we'll come to you for approval.
So the second meeting in May, we should have the approval on bid package 5.
Yes, excellent. Thank you. As far as the project status goes, where we stand right now, the demo contractor is actually off the site. He has completed his work to date. The concrete contractor, as I kind of indicated, will be on site. He is working on the climbing forms, which are in the elevator core. So if you see, looking at the monitors, all the orange steel, that's the climbing forms for the elevator core. He's also putting on the deck, the first floor deck on the east side, which is for the PT slab, and then he continues to work on the west side foundation walls. You can see him putting up steel continuously, and they're hoping to be able to pour that by the end of the week. As far as waterproof, I indicated they have waterproofed the pits, and I will be going down to the steel manufacturer, and I know that, and I will give everybody, or give Ray you the information. I just kind of finalized it yesterday with ours, so I'll send that to you today.
Thank you.
Okay. As far as the project overall budget, I'm sorry I didn't fill this in, I apologize, but we are just tracking over the 205 million. It's 205,023,000. is where we stand right now with the overall project budget. That includes the construction costs, the owner's soft costs, the A&E fees, the FF&E and moving. Okay? Yes?
That includes the $500,000 that we're not going to save on the tiles?
That includes the current low bidders that I have, and I've already reviewed the tile. So yes, it does include his number. As far as the architectural and commissioning, we have about 243 submittals that we've submitted. 53 remain open. Primarily right now, White is focusing on all of the shop drawings that are being submitted that are basically still steel and a lot of MEP shop drawings. And then we did meet with Farnsworth last week to talk about the commissioning scope to get that all set up and geared, ready to go. So all in all, everything is going fine.
Also, thank you for those reports you send me every week. It's nice to be able to get them forward in the committee. I'm sure the committee and you appreciate seeing them. It's really interesting to see how it has evolved over the last couple of months. So I do appreciate you keeping us in the loop on a week-to-week basis with them. Are there any questions? Any questions at all? All right. Jason.
I don't have a lot to add today. As Dave said, we're continuing to look at shop drawings and submittals as they come in, and to the extent necessary, will be part of the scope reviews for this last bid package as well, though they're, I think, relatively straightforward. Last meeting, we talked about solar and PV. So we sent some information over. There are a couple changes to structural steel that need to happen to support the PV panels, and that's being priced right now.
Actually, it's the budget numbers that we got, he feels pretty comfortable with about $36,000 to do the structural changes for the Sally port and the main rows.
So the other thing we're working on, which I think I've talked about, is the lead design submittal too. So we're going to put that together, try to get that in, do it as a two-part lead submittal rather than waiting until the very end of the project. That way we can, get feedback on all of the design credits, which is roughly half of the lead credits, and have them in the bank, so to speak, if we get the approvals from the USGBC on that, and we'll know even better where we're trending.
We're tracking silver, gold, and
silver for sure is what we're targeting. We're pushing to try to get gold. So right now we're close, maybe a point or two into the gold range. The PVs, if you proceed with that, can have a positive impact on that as well, because that'll impact optimizing our energy performance. And depending on how we structure, we have to look a little closer in terms of how renewable energy credits and all that goes. You could also get some credits for renewable energy on site.
Okay. Any questions?
So we need to vote on moving forward with the PV. It's still under budget. Sam's.
Bear in mind that the dollars that were mentioned were just for the structural steel provision. Sam has been working up some additional pricing for everything. So, if it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry, I was running a little behind today, but I did do my best guess cost estimate on the solar array based on the information that was shared with me. I'm just going to tell you what the figures are. The total projected cost, which includes the steel, the array itself, and I have another cost not included, which I did end up factoring in, which includes an O&M contract, if you're going to want to have a contract for someone to care for the panels and monitor them, all of that sort of thing. And then also the inverter replacement at 50% useful life, that's not uncommon. A premium on that inverter, because in order to qualify for some of the incentives, we have to have what's called a smart inverter. And then I put a 2% project buffer in. And we would be looking at a cost of about $468,000. Now, that's the initial investment, yes, and that includes
The $36,000 for the steel.
Yes, and it includes the O&M contract extrapolated out over 25 years with a de-escalator in there as cost to operate and maintain these systems goes down. Now, the total financial benefit, if we qualify for what's called the adjustable block program, and if we get the adder for the size of the system, the smaller systems, they give you an adder to the SREC because the economies of scale aren't there. The energy savings and the ComEd rebate, we'd be looking at a financial benefit over the life of the system of about $272,000. So your annual financial benefit under that model is about $13,000. So you do have a negative ROI on that project of 42% and a simple payback of 35 years.
What's the life? When you said the life,
Sure.
are we still talking that 25-year period?
Yes. And the RECs are provided over 15 years as given the contract with the ICC as it reads today under the Future Energy Jobs Act law. Now, if we get under the public sector carve-out for the RECs, the ROI changes to a negative 28%, your financial benefit jumps up to $338,000, and your simple payback goes to 29 years.
So just to make sure we're clear, 35-year payback.
If we get the adjustable
If we get
block.
the adjustable, and then a 29-year payback.
If we get the public sector carve-out. And I was as conservative as I could be on those numbers. I didn't want to inflate anything.
And you said the life of the system's a 25 years?
25 years. They usually end up lasting longer, but that's the mainstay for calculating
So
the,
theoretically, if we were to just go with the mainstay, we would not be able to receive the payback before the life of the system expires.
according to these numbers, yes.
Yes. All right, Mike?
Well, I think the key is, I really think we should go ahead with the steel. It's $36,000 to do the roof. It
That's
gives
true.
us time to do a little bit more study on this and
Yes.
see, and even if we don't put them on right now, at least the roof can take them
Yes, and
a year later.
that's the information I wanted to provide. Now, you could always do the steel, and then if you end up leasing out the roof for someone else to use for solar panels, I haven't done the exact number on that because we haven't negotiated a lease price per square foot, what that would look like, if the security of the building factors in, but that would most certainly return its initial investment. And I could be a liar when I walk out of the room today because these numbers aren't finalized till June 4th, the rec prices. And we don't know what the price of hardware and the soft costs are going to be, 2 more years from now because they go down a lot.
Right.
And you also don't know what the cost of energy could do in 3, 4, 5 years.
Right, and that's using the
So-
value we just procured.
So having the option to be able to move forward, whether it be at the beginning of the project or 5 years from now.
Yes.
Technology is changing so fast that 5 years from now, the payback on solar energy may be 5 years.
You're
And
absolutely
At that
correct.
point, we can't go backwards and then re-engineer the building. I would agree with Mr. Frizzalone that I think that would probably be a wise investment of $36,000. And I'll look for a motion or any other move. Is there a second? And a second. A discussion first.
Yeah, one other quick item. I think in terms of planning for the future, we probably want to take a little closer look at any electrical infrastructure. I mean, just depending on timing, if there's anything we need to do with the main electrical gear, readiness to accommodate inverters and all that stuff, I think I can check with the team and kind of see where we're at with submittals that have come in so that we don't, get ahead of ourselves on something that we'd have to make a change to something that's already been approved, bought, something along those lines. So if you want, we can look into that as well.
Very good. Absolutely. Any other discussion? Jim?
Well, the only thing I would mention is I agree with everything you've just done. We'll go ahead and we'll do the steel. I think we should do any additional cabling where it has to be done. But doesn't this really say we're going to go in this direction? I mean,
Well, but Jim, Sam didn't even do a study yet to find out if he leased out the space for solar. That might be more profitable. And that might be more of a break-even. So we have some other work to do on that end.
the only thing I would say is Sam based the cost savings on today's current energy rates. If anybody thinks the energy rates are going to be the same 20 years from now or 15 years from now, I think, we're probably kidding ourselves.
As more and more energy gets used on electric cars and the price of electric may go up and
Right.
a lot of things.
A lot of variables.
Fossil fuels may extend, it actually may go down, but the cost of renewables is what's gonna drive the market, not the fossil fuel, in my opinion.
Well, let's look at timetables though. So we know we want to do the steel now, so that obviously pass the motions. But as far as making the decision on which way we're going, when do you think that should happen?
I think that the longer you can wait to buy the panels, the better, because we also have a tariff on panels right now in this country that steps down every year. So I mean, I would put all of my trust in Jason saying at what point it's best for his team to know yes or no definitely. But I would say that's not a decision that needs to be made this year, but that Jason's your expert on that.
As long as the electric and the steel are in place.
Right.
As long as we're 100% ready to hook up.
Right.
I don't think it's probably that important.
Okay.
Everything else is done.
Yeah, I
If
guess
still we're going to do it, you see all the infrastructure.
one other thing I'd say is, you know, we pick the locations for the panels based on, you know, their equipment that's there, trying to minimize shading, because if you get shading on the panels, they're ineffective. So another thing is the steel design is based on loading criteria based on the current design panel placement. So, I mean, I think if you did decide to go to a leased scenario with a third party, you would just have to make sure you give them the parameters of what, you know, what the areas they can work in, that kind of thing, just so that we don't, you know, imagine they can come in and kind of, you know, do something different, because the steel's very specifically planned for that placement. So, you know, I mean, I'm not sure, and, you know, that market changes a lot in terms of cost of panels and that kind of thing. I guess I'm sort of thinking out loud, I wonder, does it make sense to try to, because we haven't bid any of that stuff out. I mean, I don't know how, pricing in terms of panels, if you reached out to a panel supplier, if it's based on historical from other projects and that. I'm just wondering if it makes sense to try to kind of finalize that detail and put it out there for bid, or do you guys think you want to hold off on actually bidding it for a little while?
I'd rather hold off.
There's so many developments happening right now. Elon Musk's plants are going crazy, doing stuff. I mean, a year from now, it'll be totally different.
Just
That
like
doesn't
a year
mean we
ago, it was completely different than it is today.
Doesn't mean we shouldn't put steel in the electric.
Okay. So it was property, okay.
I have questions for Jason. I mean, this has got to go back to the vault coming into the building or something. That's where this connection is going to be made eventually. I mean, so you got to have risers for running cabling in. Even if you just put in a conduit right now, you got to have the conduit in the risers, right? And you're going to have to make space for the panels and the rest, and for batteries or whatever downstairs. Or I mean, it's the electrical could be a lot more than just the steel is costing. And I guess the question, my other question is going to be, is the technology on these panels, does it change, or is it a constant voltage amperage per square foot, or is that going to be a bigger number so that when we size the conduit and stuff now, do we size it for what we expect it's going to be later on, the energy, how much energy these panels are going to put out? In other words, I don't want to see you put in, you know, 2-inch conduit or something running down, and you end up needing a 3-inch, 4-inch conduit or something later on.
Yeah, I guess, let me try to address a couple of those. I think, first, the panels, yes, they're always getting better. Number of watts per square foot that you're generating out of the different panels is increasing. I don't think it's going to increase so much that we're talking change in conduit size, but yeah, it is important. I mean, we're going to have inverters that have to be placed in the location. We haven't mapped out exactly where. I mean, it's not going to be big. I think, you know, there's plenty of room in the penthouse for that, for the ones that are up on the high roof and that. So I don't think that's going to be a problem to find the locations and all that. But yeah, it's now I think it's a good time when I say, you know, look at the electrical side of it, is to just, you know, we've got good raceway area, but if we need to add an extra conduit here or there, we have that readiness. I think now is probably a good time to just map all that out. We're not generating so much power that, you know, I mean, I think we said maybe 7% roughly of the consumption. So we're not looking at doing batteries on this. We'll just be netting out power that's consumed. So, you know, I think the changes aren't going to be that major. In the way, you know, there may be some base building electrical infrastructure in terms of conduit placement that it makes sense to stick with the base building electrician on. But then I think a lot of the other scope, we probably can just package in terms of inverters and all that with a solar PV panel contractor. But it is good, I think, just I can get with our electrical guys a little bit just to see if there's a small tweak here or there that we need to be able to accommodate that interface. It's not usually very complicated in this scenario because we're not doing batteries and all those other things.
Are there any other questions? Dave?
And then just one other thing we considered too, and I think that we've already crossed this threshold too, is with respect to the method of attachment. In this case, ballasted, so that means a minimal number of root penetrations, for that membrane too. So we've got to also consider that. And, so you can the grid that the panels sit on, you can weight it down with basically your cinder blocks. Or you can mechanically fasten it, and that involves a root penetration. So that's something else that concerns me a little bit, but I think that it's a minor concern, but something that's also
we need to address. Are there any other questions? All right, it was properly moved in second. Order discussion, signify by voice vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yeah, next month you'll have an analysis on the electric force, right?
Another question. We had talked about renewable stuff. We had talked about a month or two ago about the rainwater recycling system. Did we go anywhere with that yet? Is that in?
Well, it will be.
Will.
We did buy it. Okay, so we do have a detention system that we will be able to utilize. The rainwater that is in there for irrigation. So that is part of the project scope.
Any other questions? All right. Where's the fire? He's back there having a discussion.
I think Dan covered most of the updates, so there's really nothing to add.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Next on the agenda, Jason, don't go far, is a discussion of animal control facility and the EMA building.
Yeah. I'd like to introduce Matt Zalecki. Matt's a project executive with White Company. Matt's been kind of working with the animal control folks along with Danielle to cover design for. So I think maybe I'm out of order a little bit on your agenda. We thought maybe we'd start with a quick presentation and then have some dialogue after that, if that's okay.
Sure.
Hello.
Hello.
So, like Jason said, I'm Matt Zalecki with White Company, managing the animal control project, working with Danielle and Dr. Shield and the team on the design of the new facility. So we just have a brief presentation here just to give a high-level overview and orientation. This is a kind of a basic site plan where we've worked out to site the building. You can kind of see in the darker yellow, it's kind of a two-mass building there. It's about 6,700 square feet. I think actually recently we might have actually shaved even a couple more square feet off the building. Been working through the programming phase with Joel and the team to best make efficient their plans and layouts. You can see there also there's kind of a dashed lighter yellow line that's connected to those two darker yellow shapes there. That's the future planning of the actual kind of kennel portion. The building that we're doing now, as you may know, is just more of the administrative piece to the animal control. South of that, we working with the civil engineer HR Green to accommodate the required detention for the area. You can kind of see in the darker shaded green on the right, the plan is to just extend the existing detention area that's out there and that will work well with the planning. We also have been providing a space or an accommodation, if you will, for the potential EMA building, which is south of that east-west drive there that's in the lighter shade as well. Again, just from a planning perspective, just to identify a space for it. We would bring the utilities in from a variety of areas. The most notable probably is the extension of the sanitary line, which would come down Route 52, there's nothing of the sort in that area, so we would pull an extension of that main and then it come across the site. There is water that goes through, it's a water main, so that's a benefit to then serve the building, but electrical is kind of in the same category as the sanitary, so we're working with ComEd in terms of the nearest location to pull power. Looking at the floor plan, this is a basic floor plan that you can see now zoomed in of that those two blocks, which would be the animal control first phase. Like I mentioned, it's approximately probably now about 65, 50 square feet. We commonized down a lot of the spaces to be most efficient for animal control and to Dr. Shields and his team's needs. Off the west there in the pink shade is the 3 bays for the vans. Also kind of the back of house, if you will, is shaded in green with the lab and cage room, which is more of a temporary situation until the future expansion, and also the toilet rooms and a small shower room / locker room. Moving into the office portion in the yellow and blue, the yellow there is the main entry lobby on the south with the workstations for staff, and then the offices and small break room and conference room and record storage. Again, just to give perspective, in the upper left is that same site plan we were looking at that helps you get orientated to the site. Looking here, this is the same plan, just in a little bit different perspective. This is kind of a high-level view. If you just kind of took the roof off to look down in from an axiometric point of view perspective on the building. Again, you can kind of see the main entry off the south there. There's a small vestibule and minimal lobby that you can go and traverse to the back of the house areas, whether it's westerly down the corridor towards the garage bays or back towards the offices for the administration. One item to note here too is that we kind of planned it in a way to where when that future expansion happens off the south of the building, that there's a way to kind of divert anyone who may be coming for the animals versus anyone who may be coming from the administrative side of things. So there's kind of that common lobby that's built into the design inherently with this layout. Finally, here we just have one of the renderings just to show, in our kind of early design development, what we're proposing. Again, trying to be cost effective with the materials. The exterior building is a steel stud structure with this cement board, fiber cement board facade, very economical and durable. And we just literally kind of played with some of the designs and colors where to distinguish the garage area and give it a little bit of a scale difference versus the admin building and set it off. But that is the same product. So it's the same product, just painted a little differently. So we're sticking with one product, which is key in a site of the building of this size, being small that it is. That's a brief overview. If you have any questions, or Dr. Shield or Joe want to expand.
Yep.
So that looks nice. It always looks nice when it's up. I just want to add something to this. It really isn't the animal control. It has more to do with the site. And we've talked about doing the EMA building right there also. And I know that's not part of the scope of the project currently, but I do think it has an effect on this.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to suggest, Mr. Chairman, that we consider, while we're doing this project, setting the scope to include the EMA building, since I think it affects this building and possibly has design implications, and that would require an amendment or an extension or I don't know if we can just include it. Obviously, it has to be negotiated to the executive.
We'll have to look and see exactly what we passed before and whether we need to just amend the resolution or.
Okay, so.
We save a space at executive.
So we'll save a space at the executive, the second executive committee, unless you want discussion at the first one, well, it's too late for the first one. Put on the second executive committee, be placed on the county board agenda for approval. And like I said, I don't know if it has potential, I'm thinking it has potential implications for the, for this building, so they should be done together.
Well, one of the things we brought up at the last meeting, we did discuss that there were some constraints due to the actual site being so tight that being able to construct both projects at the same time, design it, and be able to help spread some of the cost out to another project makes more sense. So I think it's a great thing. But we didn't, however, actually do the forward. We didn't forward it. So is there any discussion from the committee? Did they agree?
David?
Makes sense?
I mean, this is really kind of on you a little bit as far as negotiating it, so I don't know if you have any comments. Do you,
I do. We've already reached out based on the discussion at the last meeting. We did, Jason and I did talk, and White has submitted their proposal for inclusion of this building as part of the overall project. And so we're ready to sit down and talk about that. It appears to be fair and reasonable. I think we've got some more detail to go over, Jason, but I don't see any problem with having it for review by next.
And then we just need to check with Mary to make sure we're bringing it forward in the right format. Okay.
So if it's all in the correct format and she approves, you just put it on.
We'll put it on the county board agenda for
County
this
board
month.
for
Put
cabinet.
on the executive
Or executive.
committee to be placed on the county board agenda for this month.
Go ahead.
I just have a question for clarification. On the model, when you talk about the cages, are they just there for short-time animals? They're never there overnight? I just want clarification on that.
That's a temporary holding.
Okay.
Say late at night, if we don't have one of our other facilities that are open where we can take that animal to, we do have a place where they can bring it there, hold it until the following morning, and at that time it would be transported to one of our regular holding facilities.
All right. Mike?
We'll go back to the main one, since we are talking about potentially moving forward here with the EMA building. I'm just curious, when you laid out the way that road is going to be, is that going to be enough? Because this is many vehicles that are coming in here. I noticed you have a little bigger area here where the three vans can pull in, but are we going to have enough space to squeeze that all in?
Yeah, so that is one of the things that we want to look at, talking kind of high level with Joel. I do understand that there's some larger command vehicles.
Yeah.
So we kind of preliminary took a look at the specs on the biggest command vehicle, and we think that the turning radius as shown currently is a little tight, but there's some room to actually shift the EMA south. Yeah, so that's what, working with HR Green and how the detention would work, we're looking at.
Let Scott come on, if you want to comment on that.
I assume Scott's going to stay on the job here.
Yeah. We're not going to start all over, that's for sure.
Yeah, we haven't, we just received that information last week on the command vehicle, so we're running the turning templates. As Matt was saying, we think we're going to pull the building down to the high water mark, approximately, maybe 15 feet south, and have the big vehicle turn north and back in. We're going to confirm that that's going to work. Actually, we had the vehicle measured. From the county staff gave us some information, so that'll get done this week. We're somewhat pressed for time to get that site concept laid out, because I know we want to put in the entrance and get a permit from the highway department to get the earthwork moved out of there pretty quickly. So,
in your opinion, do we have 15 feet to the, I know that site's really tight. We do have 15, 20 feet.
we do. The high water mark is somewhat shown by the dark line. Yes. And by the way, the pond was preliminarily calced to include the EMA building.
That's perfect.
So the pond's pretty efficient. There won't be, you see the light area in between?
Yeah.
It'll actually be one large pond. There won't be any divider there, but that, I think that White showed what the expansion was gonna be with that, that color differentiating.
Yeah, in case we did one project, yeah, that's right.
One other comment, by having two buildings out there, we're gonna need two water services, and the sanitary sewer will come across, that'll be a main, because it's serving two buildings now. So we'll need an easement all the way through, so Joliet will own that water, or that sanitary main, all the way to a manhole right at the, probably at the parking lot edge there. Correct. We'll have to work through that with the city, but typically that's the way that would go.
Okay. Makes sense. Any other questions for Scott? All right, thank you, Scott. So, any other questions?
No. Yeah.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Regarding this animal control facility, one of the things that Speaker Musis had done was put together a committee of individuals that he's going to be announcing to help pick the CMs for not only what we'll be talking about at the health department, but some of the ideas when we discussed about smaller firms being able to come in and handle the smaller projects. One of the things we're going to do is be able to put together a committee to be able to help make a CM decision moving forward on the animal control and the EMA building as well.
As long as you bring that on, okay, well, we'll probably request of the executive's office is to put a RFQ together that's going to be for construction management services, but we want smaller firms. I don't know, you can tell me what the number is, you know, up to 10 million. You know, one of the areas that Chairman Tuminello and I've talked with Frizzalone and others, certainly many of my colleagues on the Democratic side are concerned about smaller firms, minority firms. It shouldn't be smaller firms and their participation. So we're thinking that one of the ways to get that participation, more local participation and minority participation, is to qualify smaller firms who will do smaller jobs. You know, and it could be up to 10 million, it could be remodeling jobs, it could be a building like this that would be, you know, say under that $5 million area, and that we would qualify them, have those on our books as qualified firms that we could go to. So I don't know exactly how you put that RFQ together. I mean, certainly we have to say we're looking for smaller firms. But you might not, we're willing to discuss this further, maybe even at executive, but if you can maybe start thinking about an RFQ of that nature, I think it would be helpful.
Mr. Speaker, it's coincidental though that exactly the RFQ, the solicitation has been drafted. It's ready to go, and it's targeted at smaller firms. I used the $5 to $7 million range in the body of the solicitation document, but I could change that up to 5 to 10 or 0 to 10, whatever. 1 to 10. So yeah.
Or
it's ready to go.
Say under 10.
We want to try to get it out as soon as possible because we've got a very assertive schedule here for this project. So.
Well, let me ask Mary then. I mean, if you bring it to executive committee, I mean, distribute it. Those who need, maybe to this committee, to the executive committee, and then. I mean, I don't think it's us just giving direction to the executive to go out and put it out there.
Right, you do not need to go to county board to do that until such a time as you choose the vendor.
So we start qualifying.
Correct.
Okay, because we mean by qualify 3 or 4 firms. We can a list. Right?
Yes.
Okay, so David will give you that direction Thursday to get it out on the street. I know it's going to be maybe a little ambitious, but we think a good time frame for them to put it out there and then bring it back. I'd like to see if I can do something this month. That's why I'm asking. So what do you think?
if we get it up this week, we really did, and Rita has, we actually did have a timeline for it. Do you want to run through the, do you have it?
We probably couldn't do anything for this county board meeting, but we could probably have it done by for June.
A selection in June
Yeah.
is what we're anticipating, so it's very assertive. So, but it also provides enough time for interested firms to get the document and to respond to it.
Okay, all right, very good.
So that'll be on, you're going to distribute it at the next executive committee?
Yeah, yes, if you want to send it out to, I guess not everybody needs to get it to review. Certainly send it to Marion Purchasing, and all purchasing fire cabinet. I would let the state attorney's office to review it. And then anyone who's interested in looking at it, everyone here interested in seeing it? And then you send it to this committee and the executive committee.
Okay.
For review. So if you don't want to make any comment, you can do it at the executive committee.
Are there any questions regarding the presentation for the animal control? You have anything to add? Looks good. Thank you. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the update from the health department team, the Bluebird. Sue Motley. Late last month, we had a phenomenal kickoff meeting with the health department in Kluber, the executive's office. We were all there, and I thought it really kind of set the tone for how we're going to be moving forward in the future. I'm pretty excited. With that,
good morning, everyone. Yeah, our kickoff meeting was held a couple weeks ago on the 19th. Mr. Tuminello and Mr. Mustis joined us. We've established that we're going to continue to meet as a group on the first and third Thursdays of the month from 1:30 to 3:30. Our meetings are going to be held here at the county office building on the first Thursdays of the month at 1:30. And our meetings on the third Thursday will be held over at the health department. Our last meeting, the major overviews were to take a look at the goals and objectives that were previously established by the health department and the planning team, to review some of the site planning concepts, at least that were developed initially, for some additional input. And then we also reviewed the various departmental areas, and I think that was a little bit of an eye-opening experience for those that attended. There were quite a few spaces that I think folks did not quite grasp the magnitude of the project size. So based on that, I do believe that that was a fantastic initial meeting to kick off the project. Some other logistical items that were discussed at that meeting. The soil borings for the site have already been ordered. We understand that they will be drilled tomorrow morning, so that work is already in process. We also requested that we engage Midwest Environmental Services to prepare a proposal for the environmental analysis of the existing health department building that will be scheduled to be coming down. As we know, when we do a demolition project, we need to have that information. That report has not been filed previously. So that proposal, we understand, will be in the hands of the county by the end of this week for review and consideration and execution. In addition, we understand and we know that H.R. Green has been on the site several times to perform the topographic survey, which was fantastic because most of that work in the tree-lined areas got done before the trees did leaf out. So I think the speediness by which everyone made a decision for that actually helped the project immensely. The other item we talked about was kind of a high-level overview of the proposed project schedule for this project. We are intending to complete schematic design roughly right around June 18th for this project, with the overall goal and objective to have the drawings done and complete, construction drawings, sometime mid to late November of this year, with the intent to bid January or so of next year to take advantage of the preferred bidding climate early portions of the year. with the anticipated board award roughly in February of next year. Of course, we'll see how that works, working with all the committee members, but so far decisions are being made very timely and things are rolling along nicely. If we continue down this path, there should be no reason why we can't make those established deadlines. And the only other thing to report at this point is we do have another meeting coming up here. It'll be this coming Thursday. It'll be 1:30 p.m. It will be here. I do understand that one or two members of this committee may be attending. Our primary focus at that meeting is to begin looking at some preliminary floor plan layouts that we're currently developing and have a little bit further conversation on how that building then will be sitting on the site as it relates to access to the site, about the site, through the site, and really connecting up to the community health center areas of the site as well.
Thank you. Outstanding report. Just for an FYI, I've asked Mr. Frizzle, Chairman of Finance, to be there at the first meeting in May, and I've asked Ms. Winfrey to be there with me at the second meeting in May. So,
fantastic. Thank you.
Mike and then.
How many borings are we doing? Do we know? Actual borings?
Previously, there were a few borings that were done by White & Company. I believe right now we have about 17 or 18 that are being performed at various locations about the site. Primary focus is in and around the building area, but fortunately most of those in that particular area that we've chosen for the building to be sited, some of those were the ones that were previously done by White & Company. So the additional ones that we're looking at right now are primarily in pavement areas, areas near the building where it will be demolished. We'll have to level that, re-level that grade for the future parking lot areas, as well as we are going to take a couple in the actual current wetland areas to the east of the property, primarily to see what the soil percolation rates are in that particular area, and also to understand what type of soils we're dealing with, whether or not it's clean construction debris or not in those areas. So all of that will be provided.
And I had another question, which you kind of alluded to. So when we do the demo, this one's going to be a little different than when we did the demo at the Sheriff's Department because it was far enough away. Do we have a transition plan on how we're going to get into the new building and then knock down and have the parking lot and all that done?
You know, we talked about that very briefly at our initial kickoff meeting. We do understand that a site logistics plan is going to be very critical to be developed here, which is why I'm thankful that we're going to be having a construction manager come on board sometime in the next 30 to 45 days because of the proximity of the building to the current building poses some interesting site flow logistics as it is, but more importantly for basically the users of the building, parking for public will be somewhat limited, but we also have to keep in mind that the large area that we're building towards the back of the facility is also where all the staff parks. So we believe we can accommodate quite a few of the parking requirements both near the community health center. A portion of the existing lot is currently scheduled to remain, but we would likely need to use some overflow on the ring road to the north of the property by Sunny Hill and potentially some portions of the Sunny Hill parking lot areas to enable this project to move forward unimpeded.
Before I move to Jim, one of the things you brought up about the demolition, that was the reason when in that meeting we had discussed, knowing the age of the health department and what could potentially be there with regards to asbestos, and we just want to get a contract. We want to understand what kind of remediation is going to cost us going into the project. So that we can be well prepared for it and not be surprised at a later date. Jim?
Well, I was going to also mention the demolition. During that discussion, I suggested the demolition is outside the budget of the project. And that gives them a little... So I would ask the committee to establish a demolition budget that's outside the construction budget. It is unknown, and even though I suppose it is over the overall project, I'm trying to keep the I'm going to say $25 million budget strictly to the health department, kind of the brick and mortar and software. Yeah, so.
But it is critical that we get these numbers.
Well, that's why I'm saying that we should establish the budget, and I think it was suggested that maybe we'd be looking up to about $500,000 for a demolition budget. Is that what I mentioned?
Is that including the abatement?
No, that's open. That's open. So
I think maybe the proper way, we should probably look at that, to establish a budget outside of the construction budget, once we get that proposal back on how much it would cost.
well, one of the reasons I'm mentioning it is because the abatement would be part of the demolition.
Yes.
So this, as long as in concept or that we're going to establish a separate budget for that.
I have no problem with that.
Okay. So, and I don't know, maybe you'll just take formal action at your next meeting on that. Or do we need to take formal action? No. You're always looking at Mary. If they were to establish a separate budget.
Well,
Of course, we haven't established any budget.
you haven't entered into any contracts or anything as of yet, so.
We're okay. We just give general
How
direction.
long do you think it would be before we get the proposal back for the abatement on the demolition? The potential
We know
abatement?
the abatement is expected, the full scope at end of this week. So then we can then.
So at the next meeting, we should be able to have a better understanding of what the demolition and the abatement would be.
Well, but just to clarify, once the proposal's in, they'll need approximately 30 days to conduct their testing on site and then have a proposal or the actual report prepared that will give us a better understanding of exactly what we're dealing with. And I have asked them to also include an approximate estimate of cost for remediation so we can pass that information along to our construction manager as part of our budgeting process. So it'll basically be about 45 days to 60 days before we have the understanding of that number.
Construction manager, of course, it's come up a couple of times. Also, how crucial it is to bring him on as quickly as possible. So I'm going to suggest this. We do have qualified CMs that have already been qualified. And I think we've already, at least I've discussed, I don't know if it was in front of this committee or if it's at the executive committee, that we have contractors or CMs that are already on board. We don't need to go through the whole process. I did ask Mary if we can just select from one of our current qualified CMs. I believe she said yes, that would be fine. And so I'm going to suggest that we move forward with that. Here is I tried to make the majority of the select interviewing committee this committee. So I put Ray, Mike, Gloria, Don, Denise, Herb, myself as the voting members on the committee, and also bring on Dave Tack as the executive office representative. And Dave wanted to send Joel, whoever. So basically, I put down Dave Tack, and I put Sue Olenek also down. Here, representing the health department wants to send somebody else. I doubt that. So you see, usually the person I'm skeptic. That would be the interviewing committee, and I'm going to suggest that we talk to two CMs that have done recent work for us and are currently doing work for us. One would be Gilbane, and the other one would be Leopardo. Both are capable companies. I was asked, well, Gilbane, Gilbane probably has hundreds of jobs going around the country. I mean, they're a big company. I mean, they have healthcare practices and so forth. Same thing with Leopardo. I think we would interview those two. I don't think there's a need to bring anyone else on, even though there's probably one other company I can think of that is qualified after the county. But I think these two would give us a good choice. range company, mid-sized company, and a large company, see what resources they can bring to this health department project. So that's my suggestion, but I'm certainly it's open for discussion if someone has.
Any discussion? You good with that?
Are you good with that?
I like to agree, but I'm not in the committee, so I'm good with that.
Okay. Well, everyone's welcome to come, and we listen to everybody. You know, you notice I said voting members. Everybody can come, and everybody can have input. By the way, now I'm also going to suggest that we are pretty aggressive. We notify those two companies. I'm looking at Tuesday the 8th. 8th of May, and we to move this along. If you want to get to the county board meeting, you have to move it along. I've got the 8th, 9th, 10th after the executive committee meeting, and 11th, which would be a Friday. So next week, every day except Monday.
9th, 10th, or 11th? Yeah.
I'm available the morning of the 8th, the rest of it we come out.
Morning of the 8th. And by the way, I don't think these are going to be long necessary interviews. I'm thinking they will take a half and give them 20 minutes for a presentation, 20 minutes for questions, 40 minutes or 5 minutes in between. So we're looking at about 85 minutes. So you're looking at about an hour and a half.
Start at 9 o'clock in the morning?
9 o'clock is fine. We just have to find a space.
On Tuesday, there is legislative and
Yeah.
policy and land use.
We just have to find a space for us.
What time are they?
9 o'clock for legislative, but currently there's no agenda.
Yeah. By the way, John, I'm sorry, you know, John's the new vice chair of the legislative.
Congratulations.
They did tell you, didn't they? Did they tell you? I told them to call you, you know. And what time is legislative meeting? 9 o'clock? We can even, you know, this ain't gonna take a long time. We can do 10 o'clock.
They gonna start at 8?
Or we could start, well, I don't know.
9 o'clock.
We can't get in the building.
Start at 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock?
There's no agenda posted.
There's no agenda posted for legislative yet. We could make it at 8:30.
I think, is legislative gonna meet?
I don't know, there's no agenda yet.
If there's no agenda, let's do 9 o'clock on the 8th.
And with the chair, meet the chair.
The agenda is not posted for legislative yet because it wouldn't be posted till Thursday, but there will be a meeting.
Why don't we make it,
Can we move legislative to 8:30?
why don't we just make this meeting at 9:30? For your legislative, we'll go more than a half hour. Okay?
9:30.
And then you have to find us a spot.
Well, maybe we can move legislative to the big room and then the presentations could all be.
Yeah, that would be
There you
great.
go.
Yeah, that'd be great, yeah.
So what time you want to do it? 9? Three people said 3 different answers. 9 o'clock, let's just do 9 o'clock.
We'll put it out, but we may not start till, you know, with the presentations will start at 9:30. I want to get John a chance to go to the legislative, and then I think that won't go more than a half hour, or he can leave after a half hour. Okay, so, okay. So it's going to be the 8th. And then we will make sure this is on the executive committee meeting, executive will be placed on the county board agenda. They'll just give, on the county board agenda, David, that's just going to give the county executive's office the ability to negotiate. You're going to have to bring it back for approval, but hopefully either one of these companies will get engaged before that. I think we did that with Gilbane, didn't we? They were engaged before we had that signed contract. So they can get involved. All right.
And just so you know from Kluger, you're welcome to attend, but you won't be able to contribute to the meeting. You'll have to sit in the back.
That's fine, thank you.
You can sit in the back, and it doesn't mean that,
We may call on you.
We may ask your opinion. You know.
just on, you can't sway, so basically, answer the question.
Yeah, don't make faces.
I don't know.
So are we good? Jim, are you?
I'm just putting in my calendar.
Okay, so we'll do that on the 8th.
9 o'clock, we said?
Dave, you'll notify both of those companies to be here for the presentation.
9:30. We'll put in.
Put in 9 so you're here by 10:30.
Yeah. I don't know, I've been pretty darn good lately. Just remember this, I'm technically not on the committee, I can never be late.
There you go. All right, is there anything else, any other questions for the health department? Anything else? Anything you want to add? Are we good? All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Is there a second? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No new business. Any public comment? Any public comment? Anybody? Hopefully. All right, there's no need for an executive session. Dave?
Under new business, did we want to address the comment?
We already did it.
We just voted on it.
We just voted. Is there a second? All in favor signify by aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.